this time. Welcome back to Cruising on the Edge. I'm Carol Cruz. I'm your host, and I'm here with my good friend Gordon Lyde.
Hello.
Just going to share a quick bio. This is a repeat on of what we were practicing before this, but I just want to share a little bit about Gordon. But before I do want to share a quick disclaimer. Before we dive into this episode, I do need to inform you that the content is centered around addiction, incarceration, generational trauma, systemic racism, and mental health in the Black community. While the discussion is rooted in hope, healing, and recovery, some parts of our conversation may be activating for certain listeners. So please take care of yourself, pause, take a step away, or reach out for some support, or utilize our national resources like 988 Crisis Helpline. No, you are not alone, and your well-being does matter. All right. I'm going to read Gordon, or I should just have Gordon introduce himself to y'all. Yeah, why don't you do that?
Sure.
Yes, there we go.
All right. My name is Gordon Lyde. I'm a person in long-term recovery. My clean date is December 22nd, 2008. On the 22nd of this month, I celebrated 17 years.
Awesome.
Yes. It's really surreal most of the time when I think about it, right? Because so many things has transpired from that first day at the Regal Inn Motel to where I am today.
Yeah.
There's a incredible journey that took place.
Absolutely.
I've held many titles through the years. I started out like everyone else. I started out entry level, fell in love with the counseling aspect, went to school, became a substance abuse counselor, worked my way up through some degrees, and moved up through the chain and bouncing around from nonprofit to nonprofit while elevating my career. One of the most rewarding positions was the Reentry Welcome Center with Community Partners in Action. I was afforded the opportunity to create a program while matching it or having it mimic the one that already existed, but putting a different spin on it, if you will. That was so rewarding because I was able to take my lived experience from incarceration to help the men and women coming home, because I knew firsthand what is missing and what you're looking for when you're coming home. And then I got a full absolute pardon. And when I got that full absolute pardon, I had one dream. I wanted to go back and work in corrections because I seen this gentleman who's passed on, Michael Fiore, when I was in Carl Robinson in the mid 90s. He used to tell us all there that he used to be in Cheshire. I used to think he was full of it, but then I realized he was actually there. So when I got that pardon, the first thing I wanted to do was go into correction. So I did. The doors just opened. I'm a class of 297. No, 293. Sorry, 293.
Okay.
Class of 293, and I went in there as a substance abuse counselor.
You're talking about graduation day, whereas that was the last time I saw you in person.
Yes, and it was
my son was graduating as a correction officer.
Yes,
and
it was.
It was. I see.
Yeah, and I just come over. I was over in because I had other individuals that I knew that was graduating.
Yeah.
So I came over from Manson Youth, and I came over to the graduation to see them graduate. And lo and behold, there was you there with your son, all grown up. That was amazing. But
it was a pretty emotional day.
And I've held many positions, and now I am one of the substance abuse counselors at a methadone clinic, which was interesting for me to do because I've worked in just about every other aspect of recovery.
Right.
And this is a rewarding experience because all I'm really doing is planting seeds. That's it. And I'm planting seeds. And I see people at their rawest, most vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
And it's so rewarding.
Yeah, and again, we prior to seeing each other a couple of years ago at the in Cheshire at the graduation, the last time we saw each other was on virtual because it was after COVID. And then before that, as you reminded me, we had it in person. I used to have a wellness center
Yes.
here in Melford, and you came down all this way
Yes.
and took the recovery coach
Yeah,
training.
me and my buddy Angel.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, me and Angel.
Wow, that was that, and I know I have pictures somewhere, so maybe I'll get them posted up. But yeah, and I hear. I saw another podcast that you did with CCAR.
Mm.
Was it TJ,
Yeah,
Michael?
it was supposed to be with TJ, but Michael did it.
Michael did it, right? And I, watching that, knowing that we had this scheduled, and just watching you talk about your life, and I believe you were talking the piece that I saw where you were talking about the pardon, but also you were talking about some other things that you experienced as a Black man. And we hear this a lot, in the
Yes.
field that we are. Everybody knows that I'm also still in behavioral health. I work for a crisis call center. We are at my usual spot. I'm at my dining room table. So this is talk at the table today.
Yes, it is.
And but yeah, we that's what somebody did it for us, right? We were, whether you made it to the rooms or 12-step rooms or treatment, somewhere along the line, my mother was one that planted a seed for me
Yes.
because she was a woman in long-term recovery. Wherever we got it, maybe it didn't take at that time.
No.
It took us a couple runs out,
Mm-hmm.
right? But thank God that we made it back, and we're here today to talk about it and dive more into that early life. I know I started with a different question before, but I do want to hear a little bit more about what it was like to grow up as a ward of the state and spend those many years in foster care.
So growing up as a ward of the state, it's kind of weird when I look back, because when it was happening, I didn't know I was a ward of the state.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew we moved around a lot.
Yeah.
First we were with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had an accident and she broke her leg.
Oh.
So she couldn't take care of me and my younger brother. And so we went into foster care for a couple of years. And I didn't realize how bad it was or how different it was until I was no longer in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're that young, you just think this is just what it is.
Right.
And then we went back to my grandparents' house, and my Aunt Velma, she pretty much became me and my brother's caretaker.
Okay.
Um,
And is your brother older or younger?
yes, my brother's actually 1 week shy of being a year older than me. So we're the same age for 1 week out of the year.
Okay, almost twins.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was growing up a ward of the state and through all that stuff. It's different now. Back then, it was you were a check.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you was. There was no child protection laws back then.
Mm-hmm.
So many things happened. Many cruel things happened. So a lot of trauma was happening, and there was no one to tell because no one really cared.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me take it back. I can't say no one really cared. I do know that there were huge caseloads
Mm-hmm.
with a limited amount of staff members, social workers. So they had to work with what they had.
Right.
I want to believe that their heart was in the right place. They just couldn't save everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I need to believe that, other than believing that someone just maliciously just let me get hurt.
Right. Yeah, and you made a real good point, and this has probably been a large part of my self-awareness and realization that life happens to us,
Mm-hmm.
but also life happens for us, right?
Yes,
So
this is
certain
true.
things come into our lives for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't an ward of Connecticut, but in New York, when I was 2.5, 3 years old, I was taken out of my father's care. My mother, I'm also biracial, and my mother gave me to my dad because her family, my grandfather, didn't want me in the home. There was a lot of racism there. You're talking about 1966, 1967.
Yes.
And and I was put in a orphanage in Manhattan. And there wasn't too many, but that's where a lot of children, abandoned children, would go, or children that were put into the welfare system.
Yes.
And I remember my mom coming in to visit with me. She would bring this strange man who ended up being my stepdad. Another story. But yes, be not knowing that you're a ward, like it's not like you open your door and you see your family, right? You go into these dormitories and the
Hmm.
beds are lined up, like literally Hard Knock Life. You talk about
Yes.
Annie and all that, like the beds are literally lined up, and you're not in a girls section dorm and a boys section. It was girls and boys, where I was at, and you were given two pieces of clothing. It was, and then you'd have these visits, and you want to go home with these people that say that they love you, but you can't. And one day my mother took me out on a visit and she never brought me back.
Hmm.
And they never prosecuted. She moved me to New Jersey, and the rest is history.
Yes.
But we're here, right?
Absolutely.
We got through that portion in the early days, right? And so, by the age of 15, being on your own, take
Hmm.
me back there a little bit.
So I would have to go back a little further than 15. It was
Okay.
like 13. So my grandfather passed away. And right after he passed away, I believe it was June. By September, I was in a group home.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a group home because apparently the social workers was told that I was uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
I disagreed, but that's what they said. I went to a group home. I stayed in the group home for about a year and then made it back to the projects with staying with my aunt Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would bounce back with between her and my grandmother. But my grandmother always had this disdain, not so much for me, for
Mm-hmm.
half of me.
Yeah.
And I try to believe it's not her fault. She
Mm-hmm.
was conditioned that way. But so my grandmother gave me an ultimatum: get a job or go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And by that time, I was already drinking and stuff, and I was like, I'm doing neither. So
Right.
she said, get out of my house. So I started at first sleeping in this boiler room right next to the apartment in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing led to another, and I found myself across town, and I just engulfed myself in the streets,
Mm-hmm.
and I just started surviving.
Yeah. And that's what it is. That's the big S on our chest, right? It's not
Hmm.
superpowers. Our superpower was our survival.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned, you said something, that you were labeled difficult or out of control. We see that especially with young Black boys,
Hmm.
the labeled ADHD, defiant disorder,
Absolutely.
like they're slapped a label, thrown in medication. The system is broken because it really doesn't meet people where they're at,
No,
especially
it does
at
not.
young minds. And you were, for me, if I was acting out, it was probably because of the traumatic experiences that I was experiencing. But no
Absolutely.
one was saying, "Hey, here we are. We're going to give you this, so that this is going to help you."
And I believe a lot of that, there was some malice.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, there was some malice, but there was also bigger than the malice was the lack of education around it.
Yeah.
See, no one, it wasn't common or comfortable or familiar
Mm-hmm.
to talk about mental health, to
Right.
address it, to look at trauma and see it for what it was and what it is. It was easier to say that's how it's always been.
Well,
I got beat.
PTSD was always labeled as somebody coming back from war,
Yes.
right?
No one wanted to look at the trauma growing up in certain households, the trauma growing up in certain socioeconomic
Mm-hmm.
environments,
Mm-hmm.
being biracial at certain times in history, or just some of the what was viewed as a spanking versus what we called a beating back then is abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Mm-hmm.
go through all that, some of the name calling and different things is very traumatic.
Yeah.
And then there's the micro traumas that's attached to that, but that's a whole other
Mhm.
that's a whole other story with that.
We'll have another episode where
Yes.
we'll do more clinical conversations,
Yes.
but you will hear some terms today. Again, you can look them up, but don't label yourself any of these. Please find a
Absolutely not.
professional like Gordon to help you through that journey for whatever you're experiencing. And you brought up mental health, and I
Yes.
talked about Black men's mental health, having gone through some things with my own son and
Mm-hmm.
having to, kind of navigate the system that, again, wasn't built for us,
Mm-hmm.
And mental health is still a heavy stigmatized in the Black community,
Absolutely.
especially with men. What messages did you internalize growing up?
Oh, I internalized that I was wrong.
Mm.
Because I didn't look like everyone else. So I didn't know I was half white.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I just knew.
I thought I was Jamaican.
I just knew I was light skinned with
My mother
curly
said,
hair,
yeah,
with a lot of
right.
curly hair, and I didn't look like necessarily like my brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
There were similarities, of course, but I didn't look. You didn't look at me and say, "Oh, that was William's brother. That's Stephanie's brother. That's James' brother."
Right.
So, and because of that, because of my mixed race, when I said my grandmother had this disdain,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked through some things, so I don't harbor any ill feelings towards
Yeah,
her.
we've
But
worked through
I
all of
had to
that.
look at the fact that she was born, I think, in the 1930s in South
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, North Carolina.
Mm.
So what happened when bringing home a half white child that
Mm-hmm.
she has to take care of had to be so triggering because whites represented some of the most cruel individuals known to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now, once again, you're raising some white baby, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she couldn't get
Which
past
we were
that.
called bastards back then.
Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
she couldn't get past that. And a lot of times I was called, oh, you think you're better than because you got this shit color,
Mm-hmm.
um, all these different things. And so I internalized because I didn't look like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And many times I didn't think like everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
that I was wrong,
Yeah.
that I was undeserving, that I was less than.
Yeah. The word privilege, we hear it a lot, white privilege, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're just speaking about that, what it sounds like is that people, and I don't like to say people darker than us. I don't like to label, again, African Americans, Black
Mm-hmm.
people, Africans, as darker skin, but our lighter skin,
Mm-hmm. The colorism.
colorism, got us into places,
Yeah.
got us jobs,
Yes,
got
it
us
did.
in, and a lot of my experience was because I was behind my white mother,
Mm-hmm.
right? I got into treatment centers. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to get into and get that extra help or medical
Yes.
attention because my white
Mm-hmm.
mother, was leading the way. And so my mannerisms, I picked up a lot of that. I mean, I would call for a job and then I would show up at the job, and it was mostly waitressing jobs back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. And people would look like, oh, you don't look like how you sound. Like, uh, because I sound white, and I spent a lot of my years trying to change that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Trying to fit this round person into
Yes.
this square peg or triangle peg. And that's where the sense of identity was so lost.
Yes, because I grew up hearing, "Wow, you're so articulate."
Oh, yes, they
And
were.
there was a
They
time
were.
I thought because it was coming from teachers that were white and stuff, they
Mm-hmm.
were praising me
You're
because there
so
was something
smart.
something good about me. But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I learned I was articulate compared to
Mm-hmm.
what they thought I should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of that little praise, I tried to be everything everyone thought I should be
Mm-hmm.
because what I experienced growing up was that being me was
Mm.
bad and was wrong.
Right.
So I tried
I
to
must be a
mimic
mistake.
everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Again, something you also said. Um, in around colorizing, and how people would just address me as, oh, your hair, you're so lucky you got it, oh, year round tan,
You got that
or
good hair.
you got that good hair. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I got that good hair. It wasn't kinky, wasn't coarse, but it also wasn't just around. Well, that those statements were made around people of color,
yes.
and that made me feel like, where do I belong? Where do I fit in?
Yep.
My hair's not coarse enough, my skin's not dark enough, I don't speak the language. Um,
Too dark for one side, too light for the other.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And so how does racism, or how do you feel that racism and generational trauma and policing, I should say, over policing intersect with substance use for people of color?
Oh
I know
man,
that's
it
just like,
plays a
woo, it just
huge
went to a
part because
different
when you
question
look
there.
at the trauma associated with it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and what actually using for me, what it did, because I never.
Did you get the talk?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
meant
I had to
nothing.
learn the talk, and I think I heard it on
Yeah,
Oprah or some other show to
but
have with my son.
but it was just I just wanted numb. I didn't want to be high. I didn't want to do. I just didn't want to feel. And when I realized this would provide that,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I went for. Because when I did this or that, I no longer cared that my mother left me on the couch,
Yeah.
my birth mother. I no longer cared that I was abused, that I was sexually assaulted at 9. I no longer cared that I didn't look like no one else.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer cared how I was treated or viewed. So that trauma, that pre-existing trauma, then you throw the substance in there,
Mm-hmm.
they go hand in hand because that's what you want to do, numb.
Just
And
to disappear.
exactly. And unfortunately, when you throw the substance in with inner city kids,
Mm-hmm.
there come some legal issues
Right.
because the stuff is not free. So now you got to get involved with the drug trade, stealing, or doing whatever it needs to do
Mm-hmm.
to get your next drug. So there will be handcuffs.
Right.
And then when you get into the system, you find that you were prepared.
Mm.
You were prepared from grade school. Do you know the difference between a playground in suburbia versus a playground in the inner city?
No.
The playground in suburbia has no fence around it. In the inner
Mm.
city, they
And
all
there's
have a
trees.
fence. They're fenced in. You are pretty much caged in there. The
Mm-hmm.
school bus looks just like a prison bus.
It sounds like all the redlining
Yes.
preparations that they were doing.
Do you know most private schools don't have bells to go out from class to class? They just know, okay, class is done, you go on to the next class.
Mm-hmm.
Inner cities, they ring a bell. So you're moved like cattle. You respond to a bell, not verbiage, not words. You hear the bell, you got to go somewhere.
Interesting.
They teach you to walk down the center of the hall. Prison, you walk on the yellow line.
Mm-hmm.
That school to prison pipeline is real and you're conditioned for it.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us young black men, once we get to prison and get past the initial shock and fear of it,
Right.
we see all the familiar aspects. Oh, I can do this. I've been doing this all my
My
life.
life.
So you're conditioned for that. That's why recidivism rate is so high in inner communities because you're prepared for it. You become so familiar, jail loses its sting.
Right.
Jail, when you commit a
That's
crime,
why it's so difficult for folks when they
yeah,
do get out, and especially
exactly.
when there's not enough things to prepare them
Hmm.
prior to getting out.
Exactly. If you weren't prepared before you went in to be productive,
Mm-hmm.
to know your worth and all these other things,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to prison and you have no responsibility, you're not taught anything, but you're just caged.
Yeah.
And you become adapted and accepting of the degradation that happens. You get strip searched on a whim, and you have another man looking at your naked body, telling you to bend over and move your genitals around. And you
Women
take
too.
that as nothing. And then you come out and now you're expected to have to take care of all these responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You was never trained or taught how to do that before you went in.
Right.
Now you're a whole grown man with responsibility, maybe even children. Now you're expected to be a father. You didn't have a father.
Right.
You have all these expectations placed on you, and you don't know how to do any of them.
And you don't trust him.
No.
You don't trust yourself to be in that system, because it's like night and day, right? And so I'm going to just bring the same person. We hear this a lot in recovery. You got to change the person you brought into the room.
Absolutely.
If you don't, you're doomed to repeat.
Yes. And that's why most people come home, most men that come home, their prison life was, I don't want to say comfortable, but so familiar that you're more afraid of the uncertainty of living this productive life versus going back to the insanity that is prison.
Yeah.
Because that's that familiar pain, that familiar trauma, other than the total unknown. I don't know what it's going to be like or what's in store for me if I get a job, pay my bills, be responsible, not cheat on my girlfriend, take care of my kids. I don't know where I will be with that.
Right.
But I know exactly what I'll be if I go smoke this, do this, get on this corner. There's no surprises. I'm going to get caught. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to all these other things. However traumatic they may be.
And sad part of that is that, did you feel safe in jail?
Yes.
Than you did out here?
Because I was able to make sense. As crazy it is, there's a simplicity to prison. I mind my business. There's certain rules. I walk down the tier. I don't look into the cell. They call that man's house. I don't look in there. I stay out. I stay in my lane. There's a simplicity to it. Respect overrules everything.
Right.
It's not so simplistic when you get out and you come home. There's all these other responsibilities.
I think that's why families, even the clinical system, doesn't understand the vicious cycle that we put. Because I'm just thinking, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about the domestic violence relationships that I was in, and often people would say, why did you go back? And well, I went back because even though it's horrifying and I'm getting my shit kicked out of me, this person loves me because they said they love me.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm getting older. I don't know who will ever love me. I don't even love me. Why would I expect anybody? But at least this is familiar. This is what I've been conditioned to do. Be submissive.
Yep.
I did do a short stay in Morris County Corrections and County Jail in Morristown, New Jersey. And it was for distribution. And I was looking at 14 years, and I was in jail with some really roughneck women that I was not, again, accustomed to, and got my butt kicked quite a few times. Bought a lot of commissary for other people. My mother was like, you've gone through a lot, And of course, my mother, she was holding on to her own guilt. So she, just kept, shoveling the money, and paying for all these things that, that I got myself involved in. But long story short, looking back at that time that I spent in jail, I found it so easily to just mesh myself into that system.
Yes.
That as much as I wanted to come home, and I wasn't using drugs, there was women that were using drugs. I was one of the goody two shoes, and I was going to the AA meetings, because they would bring AA into the jail. But I was afraid to come out and start using again, because I had heard the message in the rooms that it was going to get worse.
Oh, yeah.
You were literally going to pick up where you left off, and it was going to be worse.
Actually, that's not true. You don't pick up where you left off.
Okay.
You pick up where you would have been had you not
stopped.
A lot of times we think we pick up where we left off.
Okay.
No, the progression is so bad that the first couple of days it may be slow going, but before you know it, nothing has changed. It's like you never left,
Yep.
and all hell broke loose.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, you pick up where you would have been had you not stopped, because that addiction is still there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still growing. It's still manipulating. It's still whispering
Oh yeah.
on this side. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what happens.
So take us there. Take us when that was your last before 17 years ago.
So it was weird because when I came home, I had did 9 years, 8 months, and 3 weeks off a 10-year sentence.
Mm-hmm.
System as clean as it can be. I was high before the sun went down when I came home October of 2004.
Wow.
I
Okay.
literally didn't make it 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I had a crack stem in my mouth before the sun went down. And then the next 4 years was pure hell of ripping and running and doing this. And I found myself December 22nd, 2008, at the Regal Inn Motel. I had been there for a little
That's in
while,
Hartford?
New Haven,
Oh,
on
okay.
Whaley Avenue.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I had
Yes.
been there for a while, renting a room long stay, because I was the host of this party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that party that keeps you out. You're scared to go in because if you
Mm-hmm.
go in, you're going to miss so and so is going to
But
come by,
you need
whatever.
you need somebody to support your supply.
So
So yeah,
I was the
party.
host of that party because
Yeah.
I committed a robbery. I had a bunch of money, drugs, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but during that, it was, I always attribute the God of my understanding allowed me in a brief moment to feel all the misery that I was numbing myself from
Mm-hmm.
all my life.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling the misery like on a cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
My body was screaming, and I knew two things. I didn't want to go back to prison, and I didn't want to die.
Yeah.
But I knew if I didn't get up and leave that room, one or both was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So left that room, went and rented another room, locked myself in, and called the treatment facility that I was at previously that year, Carnes Wheats,
Okay.
in Torrington. And I walked in there Christmas Eve of 2008 with 2 days clean, and celebrated my first clean Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
or actually celebrated my first Christmas,
Right.
because we grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses. So I didn't experience all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my first gift from under a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the start of this journey.